People want to suggest that Israel's an apartheid state. I have a bigger question. Can people sitting in the West impose their value system on people who are at war? And they're not just at war because of October the 7th. They're constantly under siege. So do we, with our comfort sitting in the West, come up with our values and decide what is right and wrong for Israel? Let's hear some wise words, and then we'll have a conversation.
Before this wall, my memory as a child, my father and I were able to drive our car from the town of Ramallah all the way to Yafo, to Tel Aviv, to the beach, to the zoo, pretty much every weekend. And nobody harassed us. We were able to just shop. We were able to enjoy the beach. This is my early memory as a child. There was not even one checkpoint. Things start changing immediately after the beginning of the first Palestinian intifada. It started with the chant from the river to the sea. Very romantic. Soon later, it became stabbing. Shortly later, it became mass shooting. Within no time, it became suicide bombing attacks. What a democracy should do in a situation when they are not able to stop the people, an entire society. I don't want to say complicit, but the Palestinians praised suicide bombers as martyrs, as heroes of the nation. Look at my case. When I opposed that, I said, no, it's not good. It's bad. It's very bad to kill people indiscriminately. You know, Hamas did not kill people only on October 7. Hamas has a long history of suicide bombing attacks. They blow up universities, schools, buses, markets, beaches. They targeted everywhere. So Israel had to take some security measures. And again, even in the best democracy, when you are under consistent threat, there are exceptions. And some of the civil laws could be actually replaced with some emergency laws. Even the United States did this during the war against terrorism. So when you are under consistent threat, it's very different. But somebody can sit in comfort and say, hey, how about we take some of the Western values, the democratic values, and say, oh, look at Israel. They claim to be a democracy, but look how they're treating the Palestinians. Well, terrorists in prison, have they earned equal rights to decent citizens in civilization who know their responsibility and their obligation towards the other, who don't harm the others? Of course not. So sometimes when we are dealing with emergency situation, we cannot say and force the people in the Middle East to just act according our values. We sit here in the United States, we don't have suicide bombing attacks, we don't have missile attacks, we don't have infiltration on a regular basis. So we cannot take our values and force Israel to do the same while they are under war. We cannot force Israel to send and risk the lives of thousands of foot soldiers in order for us to reduce or minimize the civilian casualty, which Israel is already doing. But who are we to force Israel how to do the job? It's not our right.
A lot of important thoughts there. Firstly, the rights were taken away from them, of course. When you start off with intifada, with stabbings, suicide bombers, of course, then we're going to close up the border to protect ourselves. The truth is, something that I think Israel has done wrongly, is that we've been too easy on them, and therefore they pushed the envelope. Because in fact, it just started off with smaller things, but they saw that it worked. So from stabbings to mass shootings to mass suicide bombings, then a mass, no bigger terrible thing than October 7th. But October 7th happened gradually because Israel did not show their strength. They didn't show their resolve to fight evil, because I think too much was based on Western culture and Western values, whether it's turn the other cheek concept. Not that they had that so much, but let's not rock the boat too much. Let's not, we'll fight a bit, but we won't get rid of them, because what will the world say? Well, Jewish values are not based on what the world will say. As a matter of fact, it's interesting to note that the beginning of the Code of Jewish Law is called the Shulchan Aruch, which is halacha, how we lead our lives. The first thing in what it means to lead a divine life, it says, Al yevish mipnei amalikim, do not be embarrassed in front of others. Do not be persuaded by others. Because when you do the Jewish thing, it's different than what the world does. And often you're going to be embarrassed because it's different. And therefore you will desist from doing the mitzvah, from doing what your obligation is. So the first thing is you have to have inner strength and know who you are as a Jew, and therefore do not be pushed around, be bullied around by the nations of the world who tell you what you should do and keep by their values. No, we keep Jewish values that are based on the Torah, that are based on God's law. That's the first and foremost, most important thing. And if that would be, and we say, reingekritzt, would be an indelible mark within every single Jew, every single Israeli, that we have to follow our tradition, our law, our way, and not to be embarrassed that it's not the ways of the world. That's okay. We are, after all, we're given by God his Torah to be a light unto the nations. So first we need to be the light for ourselves and our families and our communities. And then the nations will hear that godly light, that godly calling. That's the first and most important thing, a message. That is not our right. That's our obligation to ourselves, our obligation to our families, to our community, and to the entire world. Because our first obligation is to do what God needs and wants from us as Jews, and for that matter, for all people. All people created in the image of God means bring out the image of God. We're obliged to do that. That's crucial. That's the real message over here. And if we would be living strongly without being embarrassed about what we need to do, it wouldn't have reached to October the 7th. But the envelope was pushed and pushed from simple stabbings and to shooting, and then to suicide bombers, because they saw it worked. But if they saw that it didn't work, because evil needs to be destroyed, not just block off the borders so they can't cross the border and bring in their evils, that's not sufficient. Now, hopefully learning the lesson. But it's all coming from a sense of obligation based on Jewish values that are based on the Torah that was given by God Almighty to the Jewish people of Mount Sinai over 3,300 years ago. We're still holding strong onto it, to its teachings. No other people are still holding on to the same teachings and the same culture, the same values for over 3,300 years. Can you imagine? I celebrate the same Shabbat, the same Sabbath, Shabbos, as Jews did 1,000 years ago, as Moses did 3,000 years ago. Yes, the setting is a little different, obviously. We have a modern day setting. He was 40 years in the desert, so it was a little different in how it was celebrated in the context. But the concept of it is the same. Moses put on tefillin, phylacteries. So did King David. So did Maimonides. And so do I. And so do so many today do it more than ever before. This is our strength. This is where we take our power from. This is where we take our values from. And that's the message we need to bring to the world. And when we're a pillar of light ourselves, then that light will shine everywhere and people will see and will be attracted to that light and want more of it. You want more? Join me daily. Tanya Rabbi. Every day, Monday through Fridays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, teachings of Tanya that will, I hope, inspire. If you're inspired here, then you'll most definitely be inspired by these teachings. And hope to see you. Let me know that you're coming from maybe one of these talks. That would be wonderful to know. God bless you.